Okay, sorry, mic's on. All right, do you want me to say all that again? Okay. Having 4 o'clock having arrived, the State Allocation Board meeting will be called to order. And Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Senator Allen? Here. Senator Pan? Senator Wilt?
Present.
Assemblymember Nazarian? Assemblymember O'Donnell?
Here, present.
Assemblymember Gallagher?
Here.
Juan Morales?
Here.
Cesar Diaz?
Here.
Jeffrey McGuire?
Here.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome our new members, Assemblymember Gallagher and Senator Wilk, and also to acknowledge that we have a new Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, and we're still happy to see Mr. Morales here. So thank you all for being here. We'll get started on, first is going to be the minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review. Any questions or comments from board members? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we can take a vote to approve the minute. I'm sorry, I need a motion, don't I?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Diaz, second by Mr. Morales.
Senator Wilt?
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell?
Aye.
Assemblymember Gallagher?
Aye.
Juan Morales?
Aye.
Cesar Diaz?
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire?
Aye.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. All right, Lisa, you're up. Executive Officer Statement.
A few items to share tonight. So we're Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have a few items to share tonight. Wow, now it's really on. So we're excited about the governor's proposed budget for 1920. And in the budget proposal, there was an increased sales for the general obligation bond program, for our program. So last year, there was $653 million that was on the public sale for our bond program, and now the proposed budget is $1.5 billion. So that's great news for our program, and along with that, that would involve increased processing and 10 positions along with that increased processing. So that would include 8 staff members for processing and 2 first-line supervisors. Additional bonus with that would be $750 million for full-day kindergarten facilities program as well. So in last year's budget, we had $100 million allocated, and we'll speak to that point at the next topic, but $750 million is also proposed for the full-day kindergarten. So we're super excited about that news as well. So the next topic with full-day kindergarten facilities program, we had that round open up just January 2nd. And we have exciting news. We had over 72 applicants so far for $121 million. So the first round, that we had an allocation of $37 million for the first round. So again, we're going to be oversubscribed as of the first round. So we're excited about the applications that are coming through the door. The timeline for the first round closes January 31st. So that's great news. And so we'll share some more outcomes for next month. For a career tech education program, we had the last funding cycle closed with the Department of Education, what the applicants were due. In the end of October, we had $571 million in applications for 299 applicants. And so the scores will be coming out tomorrow with Department of Education. So those who have a score of 105 or greater are eligible to submit a funding application to our office, and those are due February 15th. And so we'll be presenting those with the highest scores to the May State Allocation Board. With the career tech education, we still have $250 million to allocate, so we'll be working to present additional funding cycles to the board, but we also want to discuss and bring forward potential changes to the program, and so we'll have some additional stakeholder meetings and to discuss what those changes are in the future. At the fall bond sale, the State Allocation Board, we presented $442 million in apportionments in October, and we wanted to share with the board that we actually had over $250 million that have been allocated so far. So that's great news. And so the deadline to submit your paperwork was yesterday, so we'll be sharing some more updates next month. And we had a priority funding round, filing round that closed December 13th. We actually had over $226 million in certifications that came in. So those projects that came in are eligible for the spring bond sale. So those certifications are good from January 1st to June 30th. And one of the last points we wanted to share, we had a series of 4 audit workshops. And again, those workshops are relevant to school districts because we have a new audit requirement for the program. So those folks that received a grant approval after April 1st, 2017, they have a new performance audit requirement. So we've been receiving a lot of good feedback, and our last audit workshop will be next week on Tuesday in El Cajon. So looking forward to that last workshop. And we have our webcast online, and we have a lot of our materials also posted online as well. And our next State Allocation Board meeting is February 27th.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board members? And any public comment? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda is what I've got next.
Yeah. Consent agenda is ready for your approval.
Hopefully everyone has reviewed. Comments? No? And no one's pulling anything off? Excuse me? Moving approval. Mr. O'Donnell moves approval. Second for Mr. Diaz. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we're ready for roll.
Okay. Senator Wilk,
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell,
Aye.
Assemblymember Gallagher,
Aye.
Juan Morales,
Aye.
Cesar Diaz, Jeffrey McGuire,
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, tab 5.
So tab 5 is financials. So on our fund release report on tab 5 is on page 45. As I shared with you, we've been releasing funds as a result of the bond sales, the apportionments in October. So in November and December alone, we've released over $225 million, and so that's on stamp page 45. And on page 47 and page 48, what we wanted to share in the financials, we didn't really present a lot of unfunded approvals because as a result of the construction cost index adjustment that the board just approved in the consent agenda, we'll be presenting those unfunded approvals next month, so that way we can adjust the inflator to those unfunded approvals. So we thought it would, instead of reworking the projects, we'll be presenting those unfunded approvals next month. So the only activity we had to report in the consent agenda was as a result of adjusted grants that represent over 7 projects and some closeout adjustments. So about $16.3 million in adjusted projects there. But on page 48, we wanted to acknowledge that the full-day kindergarten of $100 million is reflected on the bottom of page 48, and also the $2.5 million adjustment for the admin cost. So looking forward for more activity to come as we present the full-day kindergarten projects for approvals in the future. And with that, do I have any questions?
No questions? Any public comment? All right, seeing none. Moving along to the first of the Paradise items.
So we wanted to highlight tonight the appeal of Paradise. So with the expedited processing of the modernization project, which is outside of the priority apportionment and actually outside of the normal processing timelines, Paradise had submitted their modernization project back in early January of 2018, and they are submitting their request to replace their portable classrooms and replace to build a new gym. That project is worth about $5.4 million. And as a result of the recent fire in Sutter, Butte County, and that's just been a devastating impact to their community. So as a result of that, they actually had minimum impacts to that high school, but it would be a good idea to accelerate their project, because if we delay the building in that community, they can foresee some accelerated cost going on with delaying their project. So we understand there's about $1 billion of projects ahead of them, and that would, again, delay them further to continue to build their project. And we understand the district concern, and so staff supports their accelerating of their project. So with that, we are suggesting to the board that they approve the project in accelerated pace, and also granting their project to be at an 18-month apportionment outside the priority funding timeline.
Thank you. I think that makes sense. Are there board member, please, Mr. Morales?
We realize that this isn't the typical process, but clearly these aren't, it's not a typical case. These are extraordinary cases for the district. They're still going through the recovery efforts, and this is one very important step to help them. With that, we'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion. Mr. Gallagher?
Second. And I just wanted to say, I mean, obviously as a representative of Paradise and the devastation that community has gone through, many of us went up actually last week from the legislature. And, you know, this community is really working hard to recover. You know, they've been through a lot, but there's a determined spirit there. And this will really help. I mean, they've been working a long time to get this modernization project off the ground. So, you know, appreciate the support for this, as you said, unusual, but, you know, we're in unusual times. So thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to, no, Mr. Wilk? Okay. I think we've got some public comment on this item. Mr. Bakke, if you want to come forward, and then if anyone else wants to make public comment, you'll be next, so please start moving forward.
Good afternoon, Eric Bakke with the California School Boards Association. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the sentiments. Having worked with the immediate past president for CSBA, Mike Walsh, Butte County trustee, I've been able to spend days with him during the events, and just to hear his stories. The newspaper articles and the pictures do not do justice to the stories that he's shared with me. And so whenever we have, as a state body, can do something to bring back a little bit of normalcy to some of these communities that have been devastated, we should do that. And so we, as CSBA, we appreciate this offering. And I know it's unusual. It's kind of not our normal process, but given the circumstances, it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? All right, seeing none, we can go ahead and take the roll. Thank you.
Senator Wilk,
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell, Assemblymember Gallagher, Juan Morales, Cesar Diaz, Jeffrey McGuire,
Aye.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Can we leave that open?
We'll leave
still?
it
Okay,
open,
let's
yeah.
leave it open for Mr. Nazarian,
Sure,
who
that's
is
fine.
going to join us in a while. All right, then we'll move on to our next item in tab 7.
So tab 7 is an action item also for Paradise Unified. This relates to the unused sites fee, and that was an item that the board took up at the December State Allocation Board meeting, and that's our annual item where districts who have sites that they are not using for school purposes are assessed a fee each year. We did not include Paradise Unified last month because we wanted an opportunity to bring this topic before the board separately. There is a provision, Paradise did report 2 sites that were unused back at the time, and the fee for 17-18, which would be assessed in beginning this year, came out to just under $15,000 for the district. However, there is a provision in the statute that allows the board to consider other factors that may be relevant to the sites in question and then adjust the site accordingly, the fee accordingly. So given that the district has faced the fires, we thought it would be important to bring this before the board, and we are recommending that the board adjust the fee to 0 for the district for both of these sites for this year and also next year. We didn't see anything changing in the next 12 months that would lead us to a different recommendation next year, so we thought we would suggest a 2-year time period on this. So we are recommending that the board go ahead and make that adjustment, in which case the district would not have to pay the unused site fee and they'd then be able to use those funds for other purposes of getting the district back up and running after the fires.
Thank you. I think kind of following up on Mr. Baki's point, I mean, if there's anything that we can do and there's not, there's so much that will have to happen outside of the purview of this board. This seems like a very small and reasonable step that we can take. Are there members who have comments or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Senator Wilk.
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell. Assemblymember Gallagher. Juan Morales. Cesar Diaz. Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
And we'll leave it open.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to tab 8.
Tab 8 is our standard information items. I would just highlight that beginning on page 77, we have our annual item where we update the board and members of the public on any legislation that's passed in the last year that may have a direct impact to the program or that may be relevant to school districts that are planning projects under the program. Just a handful of bills here this year. The board does not need to take any action right now on these. One of the big ones to come through was full-day kinder, but those regulations are already effective. So with that, it's available, and we can answer any questions.
Questions or comments from board members? No. Okay, any public comment? I guess we can wait till this is it, right? That's it. Okay, so then seeing no public comment, we're going to hold the meeting open for additional members to add on, but everyone else is free to go. Thank you.
Okay, Assemblymember Nazarian, how do you vote on the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. How do you vote on the consent calendar?
Aye.
Thank you. How do you vote on the appeal for Paradise Unified?
Aye.
And how do you vote on the action item for Paradise Unified?
Aye.
And I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With no further business, this meeting is adjourned.